What can I do as a governor? Not much. The reason I say that is because everybody looks at the governor to do all the answers and have all the questions. I don't. What I can do is say that people need to look at increasing the minimum wage. They need to look at diversifying their economy. They need to look at what can I do better to save my money and get off the credit card roll. That's the best thing we could do. And we're not. I see it every day in my business. We're in a small cafe. I take cash only. Reason being is because everybody that comes in that leaves my business, 99% of the time, has no funding on their hands or in their pockets. So they go and use their credit card. Does anybody in Wyoming know that that credit card costs each usage 4%? Just 4% for me. So I have to raise my prices 4% to cover that price. That's not fair to them. We need to look at doing things better for our people than anything else.
Well, I'm a businessman, and as a businessman, I provide 401k savings for my employees. And I think that's important for employers to maintain good employees to do that. Excuse me, I wouldn't require employers to do that, but I would definitely encourage employers to do that to maintain good employees.
I believe there are many local private groups that could help people be counseled as to how to save if we don't impose payroll deductions on employers. And I think saving is a very important aspect of dealing with the rising costs, but I think something that might be even more important and more significant is to make sure that people who are living in homes don't have their property taxes raised if they've been living at a home for a certain amount of time. That would probably be a lot more significant perhaps than the additional saving they might do.
Well, clearly education efforts is the #1 priority. Beginning very early in life, it's important to understand that we all have a responsibility for planning for the future and taking care of ourselves. One of the areas that's very complicated in this regard is that most of Wyoming is made up of small businesses, and right now our small businesses are burdened with a variety of regulations and requirements that make it very difficult to conduct business and be successful. I'm one of those small business people. I want to do everything possible that I can to promote savings for retirement for all of our employees, but at the same time we need to make sure that we're not putting more burden on the small business, and make sure that we can put programs in place that allow for self-directed retirement programs and to help people as much as possible.
Well, thank you for that question. It's an issue that I've worked on with AARP for the last year or so, and as your treasurer for the last 6 years, it's been an area that we've been investigating. How do we put a voluntary payroll deduction plan in place that isn't a burden to small employers and is actually beneficial to the employees over time? We've set up a program with the Wyoming legislature this year to talk about how we can improve those programs, and we're investigating lots of different options. What I would commit to do is continue that discussion, because I think it's important for economic diversification. It's important that we meet one of the nation's most pressing concerns of not having enough retirement savings, and of facilitating a better approach to accruing those retirement savings over time. So as your governor, I would work with the treasurer and the retirement board and AARP to continue the efforts with the Wyoming legislature to identify programs that could be helpful in improving retirement savings.
First, I support the Legislative Task Force's effort to address this particular issue. I think that it was a good thing for the legislators to recognize that this is something that they should be looking into to see whether the state of Wyoming could provide additional support to provide retirement to our employees. But second, I'm a small business owner as well, and I have historically provided retirement to my employees. What I have found is that with the regulations that are out there, it's actually complicated and costly and difficult to provide retirement to your employees. So I think that one of the things that we should do as a government is we need to address those regulations that make it difficult for our employers to provide retirement services to the employees. I think that's one of the more important things we can look at. It shouldn't be hard for an employer that really wants to provide retirement benefits. But when you've got regulations in the way, sometimes that's difficult.
Well, first of all, retirement programs are a fringe benefit associated with employment. So you have to improve the economy to the point that there's competition for employees. And to compete for great employees, employers will have to add fringe benefits like 401ks, like profit sharing and other things that help towards retirement. Beyond that, the government has no purview except for government employees to do anything about retirement or retirement savings.
You know, it is a national problem, and from the data I've seen, it appears that Wyoming is not any worse or not dramatically worse than most of the rest of the country. I think one thing we need to do as a state is deal with our overwhelmingly expensive healthcare system and make sure people have adequate access to healthcare insurance that's affordable. That would free up more disposable income for them to consider savings. We need to encourage payroll deduction. A lot of these matters with 401ks and how it plays into the federal tax code are controlled at the federal level. So I would certainly want to work with our congressional delegation to increase savings across the board. And I look forward to the report of the legislature on retirement security.